Hello! Thank you so much for tuning into this webinar. In this video, we will be providing information on the Cultural Hotspot Ignite Ideation Funding in Kingston Galloway Orton Park for 2025 and how you can apply for funding. Here are a few items that we are going to cover in this webinar. An overview of the Cultural Hotspot program and Ignite Ideation funding, the timelines you can expect, as well as the funding eligibility criteria, the application process and available support before your submission, what it means to work with a trustee and how to find one, insight on how we allocate funding, and how to contact the Cultural Hotspot team with any questions. The Cultural Hotspot program was created in 2014 in response to a recommendation in the city's 2011 Creative Capital Gains Report, which provided a series of recommendations for arts and culture in Toronto. Since then, the Cultural Hotspot program has worked collaboratively with and dispersed funds to local, outside of the downtown core, not-for-profit arts, cultural organizations, artists, artist collectives, and community-based organizations through a competitive application process, such as the Ignite Ideation Fund. In previous years, the program focused on larger programming areas, such as Scarborough, York, and Etobicoke. In 2022, a new hyper-local model was launched, starting in Little Jamaica and Scarborough's Golden Mile neighborhood. By focusing on smaller programming areas, the Cultural Hotspot program can deliver a more comprehensive spotlight on arts, culture, and community in neighborhoods outside of Toronto's downtown. Since its inception, the Cultural Hotspot has moved to investing in a neighborhood for a 5-year period rather than a 1-year period. Ignite Ideation was introduced as a funding stream in 2023 to make the Cultural Hotspot more impactful and meaningful, supporting new ideas and artistic and creative growth. The Cultural Hotspot will take place in Kingston Galloway Orton Park in Scarborough for 5 years with multiple funding streams, starting with Ignite Ideation funding, with projects running from September 2025 to February 2026. Only artists, collectives, community groups, and small to mid-sized not-for-profit organizations that are based in Kingston Galloway Orton Park or have been displaced from the neighborhood but still reside in Toronto are eligible to apply. Priority will be given to applicants from equity-deserving communities, including, but not limited to, persons with disabilities, women, Indigenous, Black, persons of color, 2S LGBTQIA+, undocumented workers, immigrants and refugees, persons with low income, youth, and other vulnerable populations. For the purposes of this opportunity, the Kingston Galloway Orton Park boundary is just north of Ellesmere Road, south to Lake Ontario, Markham Road to the west, and Conlins Road, Mance Road to the east. In 2025, the Cultural Hotspot will invest approximately $55,000 in Ignite Ideation funding to support artists, collectives, grassroots, resident-led groups, and small to mid-sized community and arts organizations in a capacity-building initiative, with up to $5,500 available to each recipient, inclusive of a $500 trustee fee, which we will talk about a little later on. In 2023 and 2024, we funded 11 applicants in each year and aim to fund at least 10 in 2025. So, what types of initiatives does Ignite Ideation fund? Well, the objectives of the grant are geared to supporting paid opportunities to learn, explore, and build capacity around your idea or creative practice. This could include research, development, planning, and piloting new community-engaged arts project ideas. A community-engaged arts project allows artists and community members to work together as creative partners. Community-engaged arts builds upon the perspectives, stories, skills, and cultural practices of community members and is an open-ended collaborative process. Everyone involved helps shape both the creative process and the final artistic outcome is not predetermined. Each Ignite initiative can be exploratory and focus on concept development, we do not expect the activity to result in a finalized artistic product. This can lead you to new learnings, discoveries, and resources such as people, collaborators, funding opportunities, community networks, and assets that can grow your practice. The goal of Ignite is to act as a stepping stone to explore possible programs and garner research that can then be applied to the next phase of a community-engaged arts project, or to inform the work that you are already doing in your community. For instance, laying this groundwork could better position you to apply for larger cultural hotspot funding opportunities in future years. Our Spark and Signature funding will be available in Kingston Galloway Orton Park in 2026 and provides between $9,000 to $22,000 in funding. The goal of all initiatives should be to benefit the Kingston Galloway Orton Park community. To be eligible to apply for Ignite Ideation funding, you must be an artist, creative, artist collective, resident-led group, or small to mid-size not-for-profit community organization with an arts focus. You must be applying for an activity focused first on the arts and artistic skill building. Please note we do not fund art therapy initiatives. You, or the majority of you if working collaboratively, live or are professionally based in Kingston Galloway Orton Park, or have been displaced from the community, and you must be a Toronto resident. The activity you are applying for should be either a new initiative or part of an existing activity that explores new practices and ideas. You might be looking to do a short activity, or you could have an idea for something more ambitious that will need extra time and resources beyond the scope of the funding amount. We will support creative initiatives that are led, inspired by, and aim to benefit the community. On screen, you will see some examples of what this can include. It can include learning, either through workshops, courses, or tutorials to understand something new, or perhaps working with a mentor or collaborator who will help you gain new skills and knowledge. Experimenting and spending time investigating and discovering new concepts, tools, techniques, or technologies. Creating rough examples or pilots to test your ideas, validate your initiative, and put new skills into practice. It could include outreach to present your ideas to Kingston Galloway Orton Park residents who can give you critical feedback. And finally, it could be testing out ideas early to create valuable insights, learnings, and opportunities that can shape, reshape, and rethink an activity's vision and impact. Now on screen, you will see the few kinds of initiatives that we don't fund. For instance, drop-in style programming, events and festivals, art therapy programs, and programs whose primary activities are religious or political. So now that you have your activity idea, here are a few points to keep in mind regarding the application process. Ensure you have attended a funding info session, or in your case, have watched the funding info session webinar. Check. Remember, the Cultural Hotspot team is happy to support with the application process, and we encourage you to reach out to talk about your activity ideas. We can provide pointers and tips on how to write your application. Applications open on April 1st and close at 4:49 p.m. on June 2nd. Keep in mind that staff can only help review your application up to 2 weeks before the final deadline, and we are not available on evenings or weekends. The application will be through an online survey. If you require an alternative format, please reach out and request one. We will ensure that it is made available to you. Here are some other areas that the Cultural Hotspot team members can help you with before your application submission. Sometimes writing an application is not always your preferred method of sharing ideas. If you are interested in applying in the form of video or audio files, we can help. Please reach out to us. Activity costs can be challenging to predict. We are happy to help provide estimates and help you with a preliminary activity budget. And we can also help point you in the direction of trustees, mentors, collaborators, and learning opportunities that might help you write a more fulsome application. The Ignite Ideation application aims to have you share with us your creative practice, initiative idea, and how this grant will help you build your future community projects. When telling us about your creative practice, you may want to share how you approach your creative work, what inspires you, your artistic process, and how you think and reflect on your art. We are looking to hear about initiatives that not only have a meaningful impact on your creative journey, but also impact on the community. When telling us about your idea, please be as clear as possible so that we can review the feasibility of your activity and why it is important for Kingston Galloway Orton Park. We will also look at your initiative's potential to go beyond the scope of the exploratory, concept development, and capacity building phase. Can the initiative be used as a springboard to deliver a larger community-engaged arts and cultural project by applying for the Cultural Hotspot Spark or Signature funding in 2026? We'd like to know what you think the future of your idea could be, and what you would do if you were offered the opportunity to continue developing it. If you're not quite sure, we can help you to think about this part of your application. Your application will be assessed against the following criteria. The initiative. The proposed activity should support local artists or yourself and benefit Kingston Galloway Orton Park with a clear and achievable objective within the time frame and funding amount. Budget. Activity costs should be carefully considered and reasonable to clearly benefit you, your creative practice, and or the Kingston Galloway Orton Park community. And finally, impact. The initiative should resonate with the community and culture of Kingston Galloway Orton Park, with a demonstrated desire to progress the project beyond the initial exploratory and concept development phase. Congrats! You've submitted your application. Now what? Please know that although you may not hear from us right away, your application has been received. We take reviewing each of our submissions seriously, and we spend quality time assessing. Not only will your application be reviewed by a member of the Cultural Hotspot team, but each submission will also be reviewed by a Kingston Galloway Orton Park resident-led peer advisory panel. You will receive notification about whether you will be receiving funding in July of 2025. If funding for your initiative is awarded, you will receive a letter of agreement outlining expectations and obligations. This letter forms a contract with a signature page that will need to be signed and returned to the City of Toronto prior to the release of funds. Funds will be deposited within 45 days of agreement sign-off. Individual artists or collectives that do not have official not-for-profit status must work with a trustee organization to receive funding. A trustee is an incorporated organization that has the financial systems in place to administer your grant. The trustee organization must be in Toronto and should have knowledge about the vision of your initiative or experience in the community you work with. It could be an organization that you or your collective are currently working with or have worked with in the past. Trustees typically charge administrative fees for their service. Don't worry, the Cultural Hotspot will top up funding dollars to accommodate a 10% trustee fee. That means that if you are the recipient of $5,000, we will bring that funding up to $5,500 to accommodate the trustee fee. While identifying a trustee in your application is not mandatory, it is always helpful to think of this ahead of time and consider potential organizations you might want to approach. If your application has been approved, but you are not sure what sort of arts organization can help trustee your activity, or you don't know how to reach out to them, the Hotspot team is happy to help with that. Need more information on trustees? Check out the video linked below. Please keep note of these important dates. The application opens on April 1st, 2025. The application deadline is June 2nd, 2025. Applications will be assessed in June and July of 2025, and we will plan to notify all applicants of results in July of 2025. And keep in mind when writing your application that all activities should run within September 2025 to February 2026, with final reports due April 1st of 2026. Remember all those times we told you to reach out to us? Here's how. On screen, you will see the contact information for the Cultural Hotspot team. Please take note and feel free to reach out anytime to culturalhotspot@toronto.ca. For more information, you can also visit our website at www.toronto.ca/cultural hotspot. Well, that's all. You've made it to the end. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about the Cultural Hotspot, and we look forward to seeing your application.